How you guys doing? Good afternoon. Hope you're well. It's Monday the 30th. We've got a big show lined up for you today. There's a lot to go over quickly. And a lot of it involves me talking about Chelsea, the Man City charges as well. I'll talk about the managerial stuff. For example, Luis Enrique and De Zerbi and what the latest with them is. I also go over the Arsenal players' injuries in case you haven't noticed. A bit about the World Cup. That's the main story because I think there's going to be a lot of drama in this World Cup. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening, shall I say? And I'm not sure. I reckon it's probably going to be probably the worst World Cup in history, personally, with everything that's going on. But I'm going to get into that a bit later, and I'll talk about Elliot Anderson. But before I do, let's get into Sandro Tonali. But before I get into that, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell because it does help. And also, I'm launching a new channel soon, so I'll let you know when that is. I'm working on it in the background. That's not going to really, I'm not really going to do many lives on that one. It's going to be just discussing different things, but more about that later on. But let's get into the first story. So, Sandro Tonali is pretty much the first story on my list. Right. So, I read this a few days ago from David Ornstein. And it was basically saying stuff along the lines of, 1 second, there you go. Basically saying stuff along the lines of Manchester United are expected to make a formal approach for Sandro Tonali at the end of the season. Newcastle United, mindful of last summer's Alexander Isak situation, will assess their position carefully, particularly if the midfielder signals a desire to leave. United interest is concrete. Newcastle open to considering options, but only on their terms. A deal not straightforward, but the situation is one to watch and heading into summer. Okay, that was a few days ago. There's been a bit of an update late last night, early this morning, where the agents have had discussions with Man United. So it looks like it's concrete. I know there's a thing about Tonali wanting to come to us as well, which is good. I'm happy for him to come over. He was, if you watched my video last week, he was probably my third choice when it happened, but I think I had Elliot Anderson before him and Adam Wharton before him. But a bit more about Elliot Anderson shortly. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's a good signing? Because I think it is. I mean, he got a goal for Italy on these international breaks. So, yeah, that did help as well. And I think he's a good player. He's different to Casemiro, though. Casemiro's more of a defensive minded who does late runs into the box, and he's more, and he does do a lot of box to box stuff. Tonali's more of a midfielder that controls the midfield, so it's totally different. I think to Casemiro, definitely a different signing. I think all of them potentially are different to what Casemiro is, especially the ones that we're interested in. And I'll be happy with Tonali if it works out. We're doing that whole bringing players in from the Prem. We took 50% of our players last season on transfers from the Prem, which was Mbeumo and Cunha. So getting Sandro Tonali in through the door would be a big. I'm not. When I listened to Fabrizio, last night, he said there is definitely concrete interest, and I'm happy for that. Concrete interest, and hopefully we can bring him in. But Bruno Guimaraes' agent was approached, and it's going to probably be a no for him. Although I did hear this morning that it's back on, but you're hearing all these different rumors about Bruno Guimaraes. I know his agents were approached, and I know Tonali's agents were approached. So let's see where we get in there. But Sandro Tonali would be a good choice. It seems like he's on top of the Man United midfield list, and looks like we might be able to get him more in the summer, probably after the World Cup, because we got this World Cup year, and a lot of players are going to be invested in that World Cup, so they're not really going to discuss transfers during that World Cup. So it's probably going to be after the World Cup, unless we can get something done before that. But chances are it's going to be after the World Cup, and that brings me on to Elliot Anderson. With Elliot Anderson, it's a totally different ball game, because Man City are pushing for Elliot Anderson on the player side, but MUFC have done that legwork already. And that was from Ben Jacobs a few days ago. So with Elliot Anderson, I think rumor has it he's more interested in going to Man City than United. I said that a while ago, and I still stick by that. I think he said it himself that he prefers Man City. I wonder if he'll feel the same way when the charges come through. But enough more about the charges later. There might. It depends on how I think these charges are going to actually work out. But I'm happy with Elliot Anderson as well, who was my number one choice. But if I have to be honest, I don't think we'll get him at all. I think he will actually go to Man City, depending on these charges. But Elliot Anderson's going to be a really tough one to get through the door. We got more chance of landing Tonali, and I reckon Tonali will probably be a first summer signing. And I'm confident on that one. I'm not so confident on Elliot Anderson at all. And I think we will lose that on him. But I'm going to get into something that I saw, which I found absolutely hilarious. It was this. Declan Rice, Madueke, Eze, Saka. All of a sudden, they've had injuries. All these players injured at once. I don't really believe that at all. All of a sudden, my knee's hurting as well. So, I better get away from my international team and get back to my club. But I think it's all planned. Obviously, it'll be hard to prove, but I'll guarantee you all of these players, or most of these players, will start in Arsenal's next game. I can guarantee you that. There's no sugarcoating it, no lying, but it's horrible when you got a fake an injury. Yes, it's a friendly. Yes, friendlies don't really matter, but if I want to assess a player and I'm an international manager, I'm going to be like, all right, see you later. You're injured. If you say you are, you are. But, I don't believe you, so I won't pick you. But some of these players, hold the teams over a barrel, like Saka. You're really going to drop Saka? I would, because he's not really been informed. But will they really drop Saka? Will they really drop Eze? Will they really drop Rice? Will they really drop Madueke? You got to think about it that way. So, effectively, these players can do what they like. But I think I recall Fergie doing it back in the day, so I can't really be too harsh, shall I say, because then I'll be a hypocrite. But I don't believe all these players are injured at once. Hell no. Absolutely friggin' lying. That's what they're doing. Absolutely friggin' lying. But definitely don't believe all of these players are injured. But I'm going to get into news about the World Cup now, which is one of the main things I really wanted to discuss for obvious reasons, because there's so much going on. For example, the ticket prices. Now, the ticket prices was something I heard a few weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago, and the final is costing £3,000 for the cheapest frigging ticket, man. £3,000. And then you've got to get the tickets over there, and you got to buy tickets for the hotel, and then if the team's traveling, that's some more. And I think it could run into like 35 to 40 grand by the end of it, including the final, if England make it to the final. I doubt England will. I'm not being horrible. I'd love them to win a World Cup, but the way they've been playing lately under Tuchel, I don't really feel the team are going to be good enough. They might shock me. They might ball out in the World Cup. You never know, but I don't really feel they're good enough to make it to the final at the moment, judging by the way what I've seen of them so far. I'm hoping they can, but I doubt it. But the ticket prices with £3,000 a ticket for the final, you're really going to pay that much? It's America, man. They charge ridiculous prices. Ridiculous prices. And the other thing was the fact that ICE is in a lot of the airports as well. Literally just beating people. Literally just holding people down. Literally just being the savages that they are. If you watched, I watched Daredevil, Born Again, Season 2, Episode 1. And they have I think it's the task force. I forgot what they're called. But yeah, they have a little task force. That reminds me a bit like ICE. And they're going to be at the airport. They're going to be going through possibly your phones to see what you're posting. Anything about Trump, see you later. You're not coming in. Anything opposing Trump, see you later. You're not coming in. Anything that they don't like in your phone, see you later. You're not coming in. So you've wasted all that money to travel just to be returned back, maybe even arrested. Maybe they think, you're going to cause fucking terrorism. So then maybe they'll arrest you for that. So that's another thing that's not going to go well with anybody, especially the fans that are willing to travel that far. And the fact that there's a war going on in the Middle East and European nations don't really want to get involved. That's another thing that's going to go against anybody that wants to go up there. I mean, there was a Belgium game, weren't there? USA versus Belgium. Both had white kits on. I don't know why or for what reason. I think Belgium had the black shorts. That was it. That was the only difference. And there was hardly anybody at the stadium. All right, yes, it's a friendly. You're not really going to expect many people possibly. But there was hardly any. I think it's going to be like that throughout the tournament. There's tickets that they can't even sell. There's tickets that are available that nobody really wants to buy. It's horrible that they can't get rid of it. But like I said, it's the prices. It's the prices. It's the travel. It's the money that you're going to fork out. It's the hotel stay, and it's not really cheap. I mean, then there's the domestic flights. If you don't know what domestic flights are, there's basically flights inside of America, for example, from Seattle to Chicago, from Chicago to San Fran, etc., etc. That's domestic flights, and they've shot up as well. So you're going to be looking at extortionate prices. But there is there's another story that I really want to get into, and it was this one that I saw. Now let me get it up here. Okay, it was this one. So this is mainly for the African nations and African nation fans. So World Cup, US demands huge deposits of up to 15k euros to enter the country. Trouble for 5 national team players. FIFA is working to secure exemptions for players and coaches, but what will happen to the fans of the national teams involved? So with just a few months to go before the kickoff of the upcoming World Cup, a sensitive issue is looming on the horizon that risks turning it into a full-blown international affair, with repercussions not only in sporting terms, but also in logistical and economic terms. In the spotlight are a number of African national teams that have already secured their place at the World Cup, along with their respective fan bases who are ready to follow the team overseas. Okay, so the specifically countries involved are Algeria, Cape Verde, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Tunisia. And they included a list around 50 countries whose citizens in order to obtain an entry visa for the United States would be required to pay a particularly high deposit of 15k euros. This measure was introduced as part of immigration policies implemented during Donald Trump's administration, with a stated aim of combating irregular immigration. So basically, you're paying 15k just to get into the country per person. This ain't, and per player. This ain't even per team or, something like that. Or per family. This is per person. Right. So, however, this rule risks having serious knock-on effects on a major football event itself. According to a report by The Athletic, the biggest issue directly affects those on the pitch, the players and coaching staff. The regulation, in fact, currently provides no exemption for professional athletes, who would therefore find themselves in a paradoxical situation of having to pay deposits ranging from 5k to 15k dollars in order to take part in the tournament. Whilst this sum would be refunded upon leaving the country within the visa's validity period, it nevertheless represents a significant obstacle in organizational or bureaucratic terms. The matter is now before FIFA, who is engaged in intense discussions with the US authorities to find a solution that can at least protect the official delegations. The aim is to secure an exemption that would allow players and staff members to avoid paying bail, therefore ensuring the smooth participation of the national team. So there you have it, folks. That's basically 15k, up to 15k dollars to enter the country for the World Cup. Is it really worth it? Yes, you may get it back, but is it actually really worth it? Think about it, man. So I personally think this World Cup's gonna just flop out. It's not gonna be good. There's probably not gonna be many fans there unless they sell tickets internally or sell them on a cheap to American citizens who don't even know, who don't even call football football. They call it soccer. So it says it all, really. So let's see how this pans out. But I really think it's gonna not be good and it's gonna end badly. And I think it's too late to do anything about it. Too late to move it. Too late to do anything at all, really. So it's gonna. I think we're stuck with it now. Unfortunately. So let's move on to the next part, which is me discussing PSG and Lens. So PSG put in to have the game against Lens, who are second in the table, first versus second, to be postponed so they can take part in the Champions. Lens weren't happy about this. Lens said, no, why are you doing that? We want to play. Let us play. They did it. They've done it before. I think they've done it a few times now. And now the verdict's come back to say the game's been pulled. The LFP have allowed this game to be postponed, which personally I don't think is fair. I reckon the game should be played. If Lens want to play it and PSG don't, still play it. You got one team against another. I think, to be fair, they've been getting away with a lot. They have been really getting away with a lot. And it's just mad horrible for Lens because they really wanted to play the game, and this is pretty much the situation we're in now. But speaking of PSG anyway, Luis Enrique is set to turn down an approach for an interview from Manchester United in favour to signing a new contract with PSG. A contract offer has been prepared imminently. So there you have it. He won't be coming to us at all. He's going to be staying with PSG. But I knew that anyway. I weren't really getting my hopes up thinking, yeah, I'm going to get him. I know there was a lot of people who thought, yeah, we're going to, we're going to get him. Yeah. But not me. I didn't think that at all. And, you know, we've, let me just go to the analytics. Yeah, so there were some players that thought, yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to bring him through the door. We want Luis Enrique. We want this. But I knew from the start we weren't. So he's going to be off our list. So he's not interested in coming to United. Not at all. And I don't think he ever will be. And he's at the picture. But if you're going to go into talking about various different managers, let's get into... where is it? Give me 1 sec, guys. 1 sec. I'm just doing something. Got it. So let's get into talking about managerial stuff, and it's namely Igor Tudor. Let's get onto a bit about Tottenham. So breaking news: Igor Tudor leaves Tottenham job with immediate effect. Who's the ideal candidate for the Spurs job? Now that's Fabrizio Romano saying Igor Tudor, whose father sadly passed away last week, went over, and obviously he's decided, or the team have decided that they don't want him back, which is fair enough. I think he won one game in Europe, and that was it. He drew one. I think that was against Liverpool. The rest he's lost. He hasn't had a winning record, and I think a lot of the team are probably happy. I think the goalkeeper that he substituted that let in 3 goals, I think he had a happy emoji saying bye-bye. So he's at the window. But a manager that obviously I spoke about a few weeks ago that we were interested in, De Zerbi, is being lined up for replacement. De Zerbi has said that he wants to see how the season pans out. He doesn't want to jump in straight away. He wants to see if the team survive, and then he'll think about taking the job. And that's fair. That's fair. So what the team are probably deciding what they're going to do now, and rumor has it that they might decide this, is they're going to bring in players as managers. So there's going to be like every team has a team of captain, shall I say, or team that's in charge of looking after the players. And I think they said they're going to try and bring them in, and I don't know how it's going to work. Which I don't know how it's going to work, but all I know is Spurs are in deep trouble. They are really in deep doo-doo, and it's hard for them to come out of this one. I mean, a point above relegation zone, no manager now, and they need to try and get one before the 10th or 11th, and then they gotta, and that's that. I think 11th when the next game is, or to be fair, they need to get one at least this week so they can go into practice with them next week, but it's not going to work. And so what they're going to try and do is bring players in, or well, not players, but yeah, players to act as managers, and that's going to do until probably the end of the season, and then probably get into Zerbi. But if they get relegated, I think Zerbi's out as well, because he said that he'll only take over if they stay up. Now, I don't know if they're going to discuss it behind the scenes and say, well, we're going to offer you this, and he'll probably turn around and say, yeah, that's fine. You offer me that, I'll take it. Whatever you want, done. But it's not really looking good for Spurs at all. No. Especially when we're so close to the end of the season, 7 games left. So they're not really in a good spot to be. And do I feel sorry for them? No. I don't, not at all. I want them to go down. In fact, I want City to go down. But I'm going to discuss City in a bit. But because I'm moving on to this clown, this one on the screen right now, GONE-NACHO and bloody Chelsea. So in case you ain't noticed, there was a report of team leaks going out for Chelsea. Same issue that we had. So if you want to put 2 and 2 together, you can easily come up with 4 and work out who it is. Because don't forget, when this fool was upset, teams were leaking left, right, and center. And Amorim wasn't happy because we had Amorim at that point. So Amorim definitely wasn't happy. But now he's been caught out with Chelsea. Same thing's happening at Chelsea because this fool isn't happy. You know, the fool, I'm going to go to Chelsea. Otherwise, I'll sit on the bench. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm a child. You know that? Yeah. This fool. Yeah, so now he's been caught out again. So I wonder, and he's deleted everything off his social media. Instagram, everything that's related to Chelsea. He's deleted his picture. He's crying like a little bitch. And I'm happy. The more he suffers, the happier I'm get. Because this guy thought he was the new Ronaldo, the greatest footballer on earth, a Ballon d'Or winner, before he'd even frigging kick the ball. His ego got the best of him. I think his brother must have told him how great he is when he isn't really. And it must have got to his head. Thinking, oh, my brother's telling me I'm the best footballer in the world. I'm better than Messi or Ronaldo combined. I'm better than R9. I'm better than Ronaldinho. I'm the world-class footballer. You are just shit, mate. You can't even get in the fucking Chelsea team, you cunt. But yeah, as you can tell, I dislike him. And I'd love to run into him on a cold, winter, rainy night in Stoke. Not that he will be in Stoke. But, I'd love to run into him on that night. And, we can have more than words because I really do hate him that much. But let's get into a bit more about Chelsea and some news from last week. So you guys might have heard this news already, but Nottingham Forest are considering launching a formal complaint to the Premier League over the punishment given out to Chelsea over undisclosed payments. Chelsea were fined 10.75 million and also handed a suspended transfer ban last week after reporting that 47.5 million of hidden payment to agents and players were made over a 7-year period. Many within the club regarded the punishment as being lenient, with the West London club avoiding any sanctions. And then there was another story which is similar by David Ormsteen. Nottingham Forest are weighing a formal complaint for the Premier League after sanctions handed to Chelsea. Yeah, same story, really. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's the same thing. But basically, Chelsea paying agents, hidden payments, and all that stuff. They got off lightly. They could have had some point deduction, because technically, if you're doing hidden payments, you're cheating. It's one of the 15 charges that friggin' Man City have against them, and Everton getting punished, getting points deducted. You've had Nottingham Forest getting punished and having points deducted, whereas these guys are just getting off lightly. And I think the punishment should have been a bit harsher. Personally, I think the punishment should have been way harsher than it has been. And Nottingham Forest and Everton have a right to put in formal complaints and be upset, because it seems like if you're a top 16, wow, I'm including Villa in that. If you're like a top 16, you can't be getting okay. I'll put it this way: if you're Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, yeah. If you're one of them teams, you can't just get away with it. It's not fair on anybody else. And the fact that, you're coming in and not getting punished, and you're still able to make transfers until you do it again, which is, stupid. Punishment should be where it's due. Punish them. And that they did get off lightly, and Forest should, and Everton should put formal complaints in. And that's what I think. I mean, it's not a PSI issue, fair enough, but it's still doing undercover payments. Make it that what you will, but that's just my opinion on it. But I did want to go over something else as well I heard about Man City. With Man City, 150 charges. I'm going to take it up to this screen, because it's looking likely that they're going to get 60 points deducted. And I think this has gone on long enough. And I thought would have come to an end. But I think what I felt like they were trying to do is palm it off till people forget. But people ain't forgetting. They're just holding them to account. So they're like, okay, we got no choice but to try and punish them. And I think 60-point deduction is getting off lightly. All the stuff that they've done over the years. I mean, I'm not even, if any of these 115 charges come back, it's gone up now apparently, but any of these charges do come out, I'm taking all the titles, man. To me, they're not winners. They're just fucking a bunch of losers that cheated the way, same as Chelsea. Man City won, 60-point deduction would be logical. Let me get you to that screen. Give me a second. Okay, there it is. So Man City have been warned that a 60-point deduction would be logical if they are found guilty of multiple rule breaches of the 115 FFP case. That saga has dragged on for several years, with a final verdict yet to be delivered. The Premier League cannot relegate City into the EFL, but various alternative outcomes are being speculated on. Yeah, because I think the EFL get a vote whether they want them in there or not, and they can't really do anything about it, so they can't really relegate them. I don't know how it happened with Glasgow or Juventus, but, they were probably voted for to go down, and that's what happened, but you can't do it from the Premier League. So accusation of monetary mismanagement have been hanging over Etihad since early 2023, following a long-running investigation. An independent hearing was concluded late of 2024. So it's concluded in 2024, but yet there's no final decision, which is why I said that I think they were just trying to drag it out so people forget. They weren't going to get punished, but people didn't forget, and now they're trying to backtrack and punish them. But over a year has passed without a final ruling being delivered. Uncertainty is doing nobody any favors, as City maintain their innocence, and any domestic campaign would come to a close before an outcome is revealed, as Pep Guardiola's side chased down major honours at home and abroad. So why has it taken so long to deliver a verdict? So football finance expert Kieran Maguire has told The Overlap, brought to you by Sky Bet, on why the process has taken so long and how timing has been so important. We reckon there's probably about 500,000 pieces of evidence that were presented by both the prosecution and the defense. The hearing finished in the second week of December, so we're now 14 months with silence. So by the case is similar to a fraud case, I think we're probably into the final reaches of getting a decision. I think part of the challenge has been that because there are 3 very senior people who are on the court who are making that final judgment, getting those 3 together at the same time is actually very difficult. So that's delayed the case. You think you'd make time for something like this, wouldn't you? Okay, so it should be resolved in the next few months. But we said this before, you know, Pep was saying last February that he was expecting something. There's an awful lot of evidence to go through, and the charges are very, very serious. So you've got to have enough evidence. And he also added that if it comes out the week before the end of the season, it would be catastrophic in many ways. From what I understand, both the Premier League and Man City would probably be given 24 hours notice on the verdict to allow their lawyers to go away and check the small print of it. It would be on the day of the World Cup final for all we know. So it could be any time, and it might not even be this season. If it is this season, they lose 60 points. They should technically go down to the bottom of the table, shouldn't they? Or around the bottom of the table into the relegation zone, which means Spurs will be saved. Or rather, they do it at the start of next season, personally. Moving on to possible sections, how they will be determined. Maguire opened with, we have got well over 115 charges. So that's what happens if it's 70-50 in terms of favour of the Premier League or favour Man City. If Man City are found guilty of non-cooperation, which is fairly likely, they're likely to get a significant fine because that is what we saw happen in UEFA and deductions there. If it's a points deduction, I think the Premier League will claim it as a victory. So for me, what it means by that is that they likely will get punished now, and it's going to come out over the next few months. And I reckon it'll just be 60 points. And I'm hoping to get a fine, man, as well, because it's dragged on for long. It's dragged on for far too long. And rumor has it that they didn't cooperate. They were hiding stuff from the investigation. They weren't answering many questions during the investigation. And I think they should be punished for that as well. And it was claimed at one stage that City could be expelled from the Premier League. Maguire reiterated why that cannot happen, and the Blues could be stung with a hefty points penalty that sent them tumbling down top flight table. There will also be sweeping changes at the boardroom level. And Maguire went on to say the Premier League cannot relegate Man City to the League One or League Two because that is an EFL decision, and Manchester City have not had any charges proven against them by the EFL. Therefore, it has to be a points deduction. If we take a look at the precedents, we have had Everton Nottingham Forest with 6 points and 4-point deductions for a single offence covering a 3-year period. The accusations against Man City cover a 9-year period, so it's far bigger. The numbers involved, we are not certain about, but they are likely to be quite significant. I think you have added a 0 to what we've seen in terms of Forest and Everton, so somewhere between 40 to 60-point deduction would be on merit to be consistent with what we've seen with other deductions. That would make a lot of logic. So it looks like they're finally going to be punished, and it's coming up soon. And that brings me to the end of the show. I think I've gone over my 30 minutes allocated time. Yes. No. Close to, yeah, I have 33 minutes. But never mind. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell because I will be dropping some short form videos as well soon. Again, once I free up some time. And I'll see you guys on the next one.